Hello, everyone, and welcome to this session of Courageous Leadership Academy Live. If you're new to this channel, my name is Dr. Kelly Waltman, and on this channel, and particularly in this series, we talk about all things leadership, everything from communication to finding your purpose, how we can help one another rise, really just anything to help you be a more confident and better leader. And today's guest, I'm really excited about this topic because I think it's something that every single leader, manager, supervisor, we all think, yes, please tell me how to have a drama-free HR experience. I think that's one of the biggest things when it comes to HR and leadership is people tend to bring a lot of drama. So if we can figure out how to reduce that, then this is going to be fantastic. I'm really excited about this. So today's guest is Karen Young. Karen and I, we both live locally in Harrisburg and connected through our local Chamber of Commerce, and it has been a true pleasure to get to know her. She is the founder and president of HR Resolutions, a full-service human resources management company. With over 30 years of experience in human resources profession, she has faced many personnel issues. There's probably not much she hasn't seen. Her recommendations in addressing problems have saved thousands of dollars by cutting HR costs and increasing the bottom line by improving workplace culture, something we can get with, developing solid job descriptions, and training managers on effective communication practices. Again, something that really aligns with this channel a lot. Adding to her talents, as if all that isn't enough, this passionate HR professional successfully launched the second edition of Stop Knocking on My Door, drama-free HR to help grow your business. She launched that second edition in 2020, and the book debuted as a hot new release in HR and hit 3 top seller lists on Amazon. So I highly recommend you check out that book, and I'm sure we'll talk about a lot of those concepts today. So without further ado, let's bring our guest, Karen, in broadcast. Hello and welcome.
Hi, Kelly. Thank you so much for having me here, and good afternoon, everybody.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. Is there anything else that you would like to share in terms of an introduction, both personally and or about your work? Anything else that you'd like to share?
Well, I have been married almost 26 years to my best friend, and our children are our retired racing greyhounds. So besides HR, my other passion are my retired racers.
That's fantastic. I love it. Congrats on being married to your best friend for so long. That's a true blessing. That's wonderful. Yeah. Yeah.
It is. Well,
yeah. So let's start out with we'll certainly be talking about how can be drama free throughout this whole conversation, but I think especially in thinking about our current times, because I mean, we could break down the many layers of how this is a very drama-filled time, but so how can we be drama-free in a time that is absolutely filled with drama? Let's start there.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And what a place to start. And in full disclosure, Kelly, so we've been in this COVID environment for, let me see here, 53, 54 weeks now. And I have to admit, in all honesty, I finally had my complete and utter breakdown yesterday. There were work things going on. I was physically tired. I've not been doing a good job of self-care.
Yeah.
Which is very important for leaders. We can't take care of others if we don't take care of ourselves. I've been doing a terrible job of that. And I mean, I'm talking sobbing meltdown yesterday. So one of the most important things that I've learned in the last year as a leader, as a manager, as an HR professional, is to accept that that's part of life and not look at it as drama. It's part of life. Right. I felt my feels yesterday. I acknowledged and accepted the emotions. And then when I was over the drama part of it, I take a look at it and I analyze it for what it really was. Right. It was a hard week. It's week 53 or 54 of COVID. I'm a very touchy-feely HR person, so being removed from my people for so long, I accepted that that's what it was. And as leaders, we really need to focus on doing that, accepting that life is going to come at us as leaders. And you know what? We're not supermen. We're not superwomen. It's okay.
Right.
Yeah. We certainly, I know. And one of the things I use with my son, and when I was talking with my coach yesterday, he said, Karen, what would you say to a friend? What would you say to one of your employees?
Right.
And why aren't you saying those same things to yourself?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And spot on.
Yep.
Spot on. So I had to tell myself that it was okay. And I think that's one of the first parts of reducing the drama. The drama is, in all honesty, it is a great hashtag, drama-free HR. I encourage you to follow it on, everywhere. Hashtag drama-free HR. It's a great concept. It's the kind of the utopian, though. We're never going to get there.
Yes. Yeah.
But one of the first pieces is acknowledging that it's there.
Right. Yes.
And then really tearing into, why is it there? Is it something I can control? If it's something I can control, fix it.
Right.
If it's not something I can control, then I'm not good at this either. Do your best to turn it over to whomever can control it.
Right.
Or, one of the things, anytime anyone is frustrated, with their work environment, and of course, instead of saying, well, just go get another job, try to find nicer ways to say it, especially in HR. But it really is, my question is this something in the work environment you can change?
Right.
If it is, what steps might you take? If it isn't, then my next follow-up question is going to be, is that acceptable for you?
Right.
Can you accept that? Can you live with that? If so, that tells you one thing, that takes you in one direction. If not, that takes you in another direction. And I think that's how we have to look at this drama at work. Because it goes beyond the rumor mill. The rumor mill's there. It's always good. Gossip and rumors are always going to be there.
Right.
But I'm talking about in-depth drama of, is my business going to survive? How am I going to move forward? Am I doing the right things? Are my employees doing the right things? So That's a really long question to a short answer.
I think it's a great point, and it's funny because I usually start these interviews with let's define the basic concept, and I didn't do that today. I am realizing now, to think about how do we even define drama, because I think that that's a fantastic point. That we can't remove the human element of HR, human resources. Of course, anytime you have that human element, then you're absolutely going to have some type of quote unquote drama. Like that's always going to be there in some capacity. But I think I love that you pointed out that nuance there, that it's not just about having a dramatic event or having some type of episode. It's about having a workplace that is filled with drama, that you're not, and that you're not addressing it and you're not acknowledging it. And so I think that's a great way to think about like the difference there. So I appreciate you saying that. And I also really appreciate you saying that acknowledging it, acknowledging the reality that it has been a hard season and that you're going to feel those feelings. And I think that, it's not just trying to stuff down any type of emotional reaction or any type of emotion. And I think maybe some people would think, oh, drama free means there's never any emotion. There's never.
I wish. Oh, but how boring that would be.
Right. Yes. Right. Yeah. That's what I was thinking too, that, okay. On some level, I guess it, might reduce some stress, but it would be so boring and mundane. Like we need the emotion, right?
Right. Absolutely. And I kind of look at drama also, particularly in the work context. What is stopping me from the organization's mission being able to move forward? What is that? Is it procedural drama? Is it customer vendor drama? What is stopping the wheels from being able to move forward?
Right.
And how do I minimize it? Because you're right, you're not going to eliminate it. But how do I identify it? How do I address it? What are my options for minimizing it?
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think that that's a great point to think about it that
Mhm.
way. Um, I want to circle back a little bit when you were talking about, having a little bit of grace with ourselves, that we're and also having some grace with the people that we're working with, because again, in a good year, you're going to have moments like the one you had yesterday. In a tough year,
No, I don't want them anymore.
in a tough year, or I mean,
Mhm.
it's going to be even more so. So how, let's talk a little bit about showing compassion and what
Mhm.
that means. And then how can we be more effective at showing compassion? So I'm kind of throwing two questions at you there at once. Like,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Well, I'm going to add a third one, Kelly.
Yeah.
Vulnerability.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
think as a leader, it's very important to show vulnerability,
Yeah.
because we need to demonstrate to our employees that it is safe. And that's part of reducing the drama, creating a work environment that is safe for employees to feel the feelings,
Hmm. Yeah.
but providing them the proper outlet for acting on those feelings.
Right.
Feeling the feelings of being frustrated with your work environment and not coming to work, or coming to work late, or doing bad work. That's
Right.
not an acceptable outlet for dealing with those feelings.
Right.
So, but as leaders, we should be able to do our best to demonstrate compassion and understanding, because life is going to come at your employees.
Hmm.
They have a life.
Yeah.
They're only with you 8 hours of a 24-hour day.
Right.
I mean, ebb and flow with that.
Yes, of course.
But you're just as an employer, you're just technically a small percentage of their whole day.
Right.
They have other life stuff that is coming at them at the same time.
Right.
And employers are best served, and leaders are best served, when we can acknowledge that. And our responsibility as a leader may not be to, when I'm talking about communication skills, I talk a lot about empathizing, not
Hmm.
sympathizing.
Right.
As you know, two completely different things.
Yes.
Okay. We should empathize. When you empathize, you're not agreeing or disagreeing with the person's feelings. You're just
Right. Right.
acknowledging them. That helps make them feel heard. So that is a form of compassion. Make sure they are heard, accept that they have a life outside of, the time that they spend with you.
Right.
And that's okay. They are only spending time with you to have that life outside of the time with you.
Right.
So we know right away what their priorities are. And we need to be okay with that.
Right.
And I would say, if I've seen any big change in upcoming managers and leaders in the last year, it is that people have learned to demonstrate more compassion. It is that people have learned that I can't stare at my screen all day long. I might have a child that needs my help with their schoolwork, who all of a sudden I'm a teacher also, or I have a sick pet, or you know what? I'm feeling tense and frustrated. I need to walk away so that I can bring my whole self back to the environment. I've seen a lot more compassion in that regards, in which employers are recognizing, you know what, on the selfish side, they're recognizing, oh, this is actually good for my business,
Right.
because I'm finding people are working harder in the time that they have available to give me.
Right.
And if I lighten up a little bit, they're going to want to be on the journey with me,
Right.
because I'm understanding that they're a person, they're a human. They are not just a customer service representative.
Right.
They're a human being. I am seeing a lot more compassion. And I talk about self-care. I'm seeing a heck of a lot more conversations about that in
Yeah.
workplaces. You know what? Make sure you are taking a lunch. I have more employers now that are actually requiring a lunch break.
That's good.
Instead of just saying, we'd like you to take a lunch break, they're
Yeah.
making it policy now.
Well, and it, it was always like, well, you're entitled to a lunch break, but there was like that glory and honor in skipping it. Like, oh, you're so dedicated. You worked through your lunch hour,
Yeah.
and yeah, and I agree. I think that thankfully we're seeing more and more this
Mhm.
recognition that is not something we should glorify. Like,
Oh, I
you know,
know. I
yeah,
know. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And the studies show that if employees take a break of at least 30 minutes partway through their day, they are more productive employees. And I can't cite the exact study that did that, but there are studies out there that
yeah,
show that.
yes, yeah,
And people now, we're seeing it more. And I think a portion of it could be contributed to the fact that we're doing more virtual. We're seeing deeper into what our employees actually do for
right,
us every day.
right.
I mean, we are physically seeing it instead of being in our corner office or our office with the door that closes because we're a manager now.
Yeah,
I think we are interacting more closely with what our employees do every day.
right.
And I think that helps.
Yeah.
And frankly, I think our managers and leaders have needed more self-care too, because we've all been going, God, what do I do? What do I do? I
Right.
don't, I don't know how to do this. So we've recognized ourselves that, oh, you know what? We
Right.
need to look at
Yeah.
this. And all of that, all of those actions, even just having a conversation about it with your employees or with the people that are close to you, having the conversation, acknowledging it, all of that reduces the drama, reduces the tension
Mhm.
associated with that, which reduces the drama.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, wow. There was, yeah, so much in there. I'd love to unpack that. Yeah, that was so good. I think it's interesting too that, I mean, I think when you were saying about seeing more and more of people understanding the importance of compassion, understanding the importance of empathy, understanding the importance of giving their team members rest, meaning, lunch breaks, other breaks throughout the day. It's interesting because I think, yes, there has been, in part probably due to that growing body of research that you were talking about, that's
Mhm.
showing the importance, and people are becoming more educated and those conversations are happening, thankfully. But I do think it has been interesting to see the impact of COVID, and it really did level that playing field because it wasn't just one sector of employee or one level of employee that was at home dealing with all the stresses of kids
Mhm.
coming home from school and it was every level within an organization, especially early on,
Mhm.
everybody was at home,
It was leveling.
it was
It
leveling.
leveled the playing field.
Yeah. And, I think that was one of the good things. If we want to talk about some of the silver linings, I think that did help leaders and managers to see, oh, yeah, compassion and empathy
Mhm.
and all of that really, yes, because I'm feeling it. I realize now how important it is for my team members. So,
Mhm.
yeah, that was a powerful natural experiment.
Yeah.
that,
Well,
that,
I will tell you one of the things that I did as a leader with HR resolutions. Of course, I do have a staff. It's not just me. When this whole thing started, of course, I mean, everybody's turning to HR and going, "Ah,
Mhm.
what do I
Yeah,
do?
right.
People have never been allowed to work from home before. What do I
Mhm.
do? How do I know they're doing their work? What do we
Right,
do?
right.
I mean, and then the virus and all of that. I mean, it's literally, we were boom, boom,
Yeah,
boom, boom,
yeah.
boom. All of us. And all of us, we were just like everybody else going, there are no there are no guidelines from SHRM on this. I got no clue. I know the government's talking about doing something, but they've not
Right,
shared yet. So I
right,
still got
right.
no clue.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
One of the things I did in the first 2 weeks of the pandemic, I mandated a paid day off for each of our employees, myself included. They weren't going to pick it, so I picked it for them.
Right.
And I said, there will be disciplinary action if you touch your emails, if you touch your voicemail, if you touch your phone. And I don't manage like that.
Right.
But
Right.
I mandated. And the one who really fought me about doing it actually thanked me the next week. She said, I did not realize how much I needed that break.
Right.
And I really appreciate that you did that for me. You know, and I led by example. Mine was the last one, which is appropriate. I'm the leader.
Right.
And yeah, I wanted to burn my phone that day. And my team was very protective of me that day also, as I was with them when they were off. I'm like, yeah, no, not here today. How can
Yeah.
I help you? Yeah. And it really, doing so that immediately in the crisis, I think, first of all, enabled them to continue to do good work,
Right.
enabled them to take care of their family things.
Yes.
The one had a toddler,
Right.
you know, and the other worked in essential business and couldn't take time off, and in fact was working more because of his work.
Right.
So there were things around their house that only she could take care of at that time.
Right.
And recognizing, and then that just, you know, that reinforced our company's philosophy that family's first.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
I used to say we're in human resources. We're not, you know, we're not rocket scientists. Well, now I say we're in human resources. We're not curing COVID. Yeah, and we're not. It's
Right.
it's really, really, really rare that there is an end of the world HR emergency. But yeah, it was just the compassion piece is just so important.
Yeah.
And I'm honestly seeing more and more from people.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. Because you know, like you said, we're seeing so much research come out in the field that just it shows also, you know, you mentioned this earlier that when people feel heard, how powerful that is. And we know that the quality of communication within an organization has a direct effect on people's productivity and their satisfaction and just how important that is to have that direct line of communication, that quality of communication, that people feel heard, that they feel valued, just how important that is all around. And yeah, so it's good to hear that you're seeing more of that as well. That people are tuning into that.
And to follow up on feeling valued, one of the things that I often talk about with my clients and managers, make sure your employees understand their relevance within the organization, within the department, within the, you know, if they're a line worker that's inserting widget A into slot B, make sure they understand why it is important that widget A goes into slot B properly.
Yes. Yep.
Make sure they get the relevance of their role. It's so important as a human to feel relevant and needed.
Yes.
We do better work when we understand the big picture.
Yep.
You know, we buy into it at that point because we get it. You know, if we're just siloed into, I'm going to insert widget A into slot B, that's all I'm going to do all day, then I assure you that employee is going to clock in right at the last minute and they're going to clock out right at the first minute because all they're doing is slot A, you know, widget A into slot B. Help them understand why that is so important. Even that, you know, what in professional services, some people might think is just so, it's just so rote and so mechanical. It is. But there's an important reason that job exists.
Right.
And help the employee understand that reason.
Right.
So that they feel relevant. They feel necessary to the total organization, even though it's one tiny piece.
But if that piece doesn't happen, everything falls apart, you know?
Right.
Yeah. So
if widget A isn't in slot B and you drive your car down the road,
right.
Not going to happen.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a fantastic point. I'm really glad that you mentioned that. That is a key piece for sure. Feeling valued, that connection, and seeing how that connects to the bigger picture. Absolutely.
Yeah. And that reduces the drama.
Yes.
Because people understand. So there truly are opportunities to reduce the drama with your human resources.
Right. Yeah. So one
Just
that,
don't look at it that way.
right. Well, in an area that is semi-related to that, it's slightly different, but related, and thinking about other ways to help reduce the drama. Can you talk about the importance of reviewing job descriptions? Because I think that
My favorite topic.
yeah, that so often I think people are like, oh, so here you go, or or they do it 10 years ago. And so can you talk about the importance of reviewing them and how that can help reduce drama as well?
Gosh, absolutely. First of all, and if you do read the book, and I encourage everyone to read the book, it was written in a manner in which it can be a desk copy for you that can help you put your own drama-free HR system in place. I mean, we'd love to help you, but get the book. We'll walk you through what best practices are. The number one thing I talk about is the importance of the job description, and I describe it as serving as the hub of the wheel. So if we look at the rubber tire if we look at the rubber piece on our tire, all right, as the end product, as the mission of our organization, the job description serves as the hub, and all the spokes that come off of that are all relevant to that overriding piece of the work. And it may be, do I have to borrow the phrase, do I have the right people in the right seats on the right bus? And, if I have someone injured at work, sharing with the medical provider, here's what the job is, here's what they need to be able to do. When I'm doing coaching and mentoring and development, here are the areas that you do really well. Here are the areas I'd like us to focus on in the next quarter.
Right.
It also creates that crystal clear understanding of what the employee's role in the department, in the job, in the overall organization. It helps create that picture for them. And it might be in words, but it is so important that everybody understands how the pieces all fit together. And Kelly, this is your piece of the total puzzle. These are my expectations of you. So it helps when we're interviewing, when we're recruiting. Every decision about the employee and the work should be focused on that hub of the wheel and making sure that we understand the tasks and the jobs that we need our employees to do.
Right.
And I just had a quick little video, one of those doodle sketch things done that I just think are the coolest thing. I'm like a child.
They're fun.
It's amazing. But I just had one created in which I know exactly what I expect my employees to do. Do they?
Right.
And the question is, do they understand it in the same manner in which I intended it?
Right.
One of the hardest leadership lessons I learned when I first started bringing other employees in to do the HR work that I was doing was to accept that it didn't have to be done my way. Oh, hard lesson to learn. Oh my.
There's more than one way. What?
I know. Wait, I created the organization. This is how the organization does it.
Right.
And the employee's response was, but I came up with the same answer. I'm like, that's brilliant. You did. Carry on. But it was like, it's like a dam in my brain that was stopping me.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't understand why you're doing it this way. That is not how we did it. And she said, I got the same answer. Like, oh, you did. Oh, good job. But we have to be sure in our job descriptions that we're not having those moments on every single task.
Right.
It's our responsibility as leaders to paint that crystal clear picture of expectations.
Yeah.
And what I will do a lot of times when I'm coaching disappointed managers, supervisors, and leaders, they're disappointed because the work wasn't done right, or there's a challenge with the work product, or they didn't treat the customer the way we expect. My question to them is, well, did Melissa fully understand her expectations? Did you explain to her, this is the way?
Right.
And so my question now is, did she follow the way and fail, or did we fail as her leader?
Right.
Now, if I have to have a conversation 2 or 3 times with an employee, that's a completely different story.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
the first time out, I look at it when I'm leading my staff. I look at it as, how did I fail you? What help me understand so that we can have a conversation about the next time.
Right.
And by doing that, I'm showing compassion that people make mistakes.
Right.
I'm also showing compassion by admitting that I'm showing vulnerability by admitting that it may have been my fault.
Right.
Even with a job description. And then the important times to review the job description are when you have an employee leaving, because you want to freshen that in your brain. You want to determine, do I need to make any tweaks or any changes to it? What worked, what didn't work? Who am I looking for? What am I looking for in replacing this position?
Right.
And then the other time would be when you are doing performance evaluations, because your performance evaluation should be based upon the written expectations of the employee.
Right.
And even HR managers don't like performance evaluations. I wish there was a different way.
I know. Yeah. No,
they are so important.
Yeah. Well, and that's, I wrote a blog post about that not too long ago about, are you relying on annual performance reviews for your feedback? Because, and as you were saying in there, you need to be having those regular feedback conversations. And I think that's one of the primary pitfalls. I think that, yes, there is a place for, and there is a purpose for those annual reviews, but that should be for reviewing job descriptions, overall performance, talking about potential raises, but not, oh, here's the chance for your feedback for the year. Like, what?
You held this all year.
How is it helpful?
So I goofed that up in February of last year, and you're telling me now.
Yeah, great.
Let me get right on fixing that.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I'm sure you agree. The message that sends a couple messages to the employee.
Yeah.
Number one, the mistake wasn't that big of a deal.
Right.
Number two, I wasn't that important as the employee.
Yep.
Those are not messages we want to send.
No, absolutely not.
But Kelly, on the counter of that, I want to make sure also that people understand an important part of leadership is that we recognize the good also in a timely manner.
Absolutely. Yes.
You know, when my employee came to the same solution as me in a different manner, I appreciated and recognized her for that.
Right.
That's like, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Why didn't I think of that? I'm so glad that you did.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh, look how much more efficient this makes us.
Absolutely.
I did not wait for her annual review to do that. That was an in the moment. Wow.
Absolutely.
Good job.
Yes.
And those are just as important as the correcting. And I don't like to call them disciplinary conversations. Unless, of course, it is something that I've discussed time and time and time again. I much prefer to call them coaching or mentoring conversations or redirection.
Right.
Don Shula and can't think of his name right now, but they co-authored a book that talks about redirection as opposed to discipline and what the two mean and why everybody is a coach. That's why Don Shula was involved. My husband was impressed that I knew who that was. That I knew he was a coach. I had the wrong sport, but at least that I recognized he was a coach. And that opened my eyes a little bit to, that's right. One of my responsibilities as a leader is to coach my team.
Absolutely. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. And I coach around the job description.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I loved, I completely agree. It's one of the things I talk about a lot as well, is that need to give positive and critical feedback, a good balance, and in a timely manner, because that's one of the components of having effective feedback is that it's timely. So I appreciate that you mentioned that. And I wholeheartedly agree. I one of the things you were talking about with the job descriptions, one of the words that kept coming up and I think is so important to highlight is expectations. Yeah. And that's really at the heart of it, right? Is that it's about clearly and effectively communicating those expectations. Because if we're not doing that, that's where that disconnect happens, and then that's where the drama happens.
That's where the drama happens.
Yeah.
Yes, and and I'm going to be the first to admit those are challenging conversations, particularly when expectations aren't met.
Right. Yeah.
And when I take it from approach of how did I fail you, and I don't use the word fail, okay, but how did I let you down? How did I not? How could I have helped you differently or better?
Right.
But those are tough conversations to have, both from a recognition of, ooh, I goofed this up, and because we don't want to hurt somebody's feelings.
Right. Right.
But if it's done right, it's not about the feelings.
Yeah.
It's not about the person. It's about the task. It's about the performance, and helping the employee understand that that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about them as a person.
Right.
That's why empathizing really helps in those, because you are demonstrating that you want to hear their side.
Right.
Maybe I did explain it incorrectly. My team has come up with a phrase called Karen speak. Very well may have explained it in Karen speak.
Right.
Now, one employee has been with me 6 years. She's pretty good at ciphering Karen speak at this point. Right. But my husband of 26 years, no, there are still Karen speak moments, and I accept that. I own that. Right. But that's one of the first things I'm going to look at. If there was there a breakdown in communication? Excuse me. Was the expectation perfectly understood? And in their language, in their understanding, not in mine.
Yes.
In theirs. And that's the other thing that complicates the conversation, because you have to speak in their language, in their tone, in their style, not in yours.
Right.
Because it's not about you.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And that's an interesting point too. And thinking about how to, tease out that conversation. Do you find it's helpful to maybe start the conversation with, talk to me about what you thought the expectations were? Like, is it helpful for them to share that first? And then maybe see where that disconnect happened. I don't know if that's a helpful way.
And that's a great question. Usually what I'll start with, and I follow the practices of ZAP from Development Dimensions International, where, I'm going to maintain or enhance someone's self-esteem. But during that part of the conversation, I'm talking about the issue. So I'm laying out the issue. Right. And then I'm recognizing their, any emotion that might come with it. And the third step is basically help me understand.
Right.
It goes with that question. Tell me what you understood to be the expectation or the task or the responsibility. And I want to explore that with you a little bit. It does no good if I tell you how to fix your problem. Right. Right. Now, as a coach, I want to help you come to the conclusion that works best for you. So I absolutely need to understand their understanding of the situation. Right. They may not have intended it the way that the client or the customer took it. They may have thought that they followed all the processes and it appeared complete to them. I need to understand, I need to analyze where, what was the gap? Where did it fall down? Where did the system not work? Right. And I won't do that unless I'm asking for their input. Again, demonstrating that they're heard, they're valued. Yeah. 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 And I can see that, that act of asking those open-ended questions and that act of listening, how that can really help, again, because our topic is reducing trauma, that being willing to ask those questions and then listen and genuinely listen, can really help reduce that drama rather than operating from an assumption of, because we know what assuming does, operating from an assumption
of where the breakdown happened, or that, whatever. But being willing to ask those questions and really listen, I could see how that would really, again, help reduce that drama.
Right.
Yeah.
And I want to talk a little bit about reducing the drama for the leader also, or the person that has to enter this conversation, because it's not something we do every day. It's something that we acknowledge is difficult. And as you know, one of the best skills in listening is you have to listen. You can't be thinking about what your next question is going to be. Exactly. Where am I going with this? You need to, and I always encourage people, I want you to write out your bullet points. Hey, I want you to be sure you don't miss anything that is critical or important to you. Where do you see the breakdown was? I need you to bring that out so you can have an honest conversation.
Right.
So write it down so that you don't forget about it. Because when you're having the conversation, I don't want you worried about, what am I going to forget? What am I going to ask next? What am I going to do? I want you focused on the employee. I want you focused on the individual that you're speaking with.
Right.
And then if you need to take a moment after they've said whatever they need to say, there's nothing wrong with that. That's part of conversation.
Right.
There's also nothing wrong with saying, Kelly, let me look back to my notes. I want to make sure that we've covered everything. And then look at your notes.
Right.
But it is so important to be focused on the conversation so you are listening and hearing and absorbing what they're saying.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great point, because people can tell, whether you're really engaging with them, whether you're really present in that conversation, or whether you are, thinking about what you want to say, thinking about that email that you just saw the corner of your eye pop up on your computer, or, whatever. Mm-hmm. People can tell whether you're genuinely engaged or not. And so, it's all well and good if you want to reduce drama by having the conversation, but if you're not really having the conversation, you're not reducing the drama, because then they're just going to leave there and feel more frustrated probably than when they walked into your office to begin with.
Right. You're making it worse.
Yeah, you're making it worse. Yeah.
And if you have the time scheduled with them and something comes up, because things come up,
sure,
say, I am so sorry. I really appreciate that you were honest and true to our time commitment. I have had this urgent matter arise. You are very important, so I want to be sure I can be focused on you. Can we reschedule?
Right.
Or can you give me 10 minutes to take care of this? You can hang here. I need to take care of this so it's off my mind so that I can be focused on you.
Right. Yeah.
Can you imagine the message that sends to an employee if you let them know that you value their time also?
Yes.
And you want to be respectful to give your time to them.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm so weird. I'm getting goosebumps talking about it.
No, but
I am such an HR nerd.
Yeah. I can appreciate that. But it's so true, because it is those small things that become very big things. It's those small things that show that you genuinely care, that you genuinely appreciate somebody. And like you said, they can tell, they can feel that. It goes a very, very long way. So no, it's a fantastic point. Yeah. Right.
And a lot of times, Kelly, I hear, well, my supervisor doesn't do that with me, or my CEO doesn't do that with me. And my answer is, so?
Right.
Why can't you set the example?
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. Why can't you set the example when the CEO asks to talk with you? Why can't you lead by example? Manage up.
Yeah.
There is such a thing. That's hard. That's harder than a courageous conversation with your employee. Yeah. But there is such a thing. Demonstrate those good skills up as well.
Yes.
So because not every chief does it right.
No.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
Why can't you do it right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I encourage people the same way, that, within your sphere of influence, have the most positive impact you can. And, you can hope that ripple effect will extend upward, but, within your sphere of influence, have a positive impact. And I also, I worked with someone previously who their boss was 2 levels above me. didn't
Mhm.
treat them the best, and then they didn't treat me the best. And he would say to me, well, I'm sorry, I'm being treated this way, so I see myself taking it out on you. And I thought, I don't do that to my team. Like, I don't take, because you're treating me this way, I don't take that as an acceptable excuse to treat my team a certain
Right.
way.
Right.
So yeah, like at some point the buck has to stop and you have to take responsibility and show be the better example. Yeah.
I love the phrase sphere of influence because that's
Yeah.
right. You
Yeah.
control you. You don't
Yep.
control your boss. You
Right.
control you.
Yep. Yeah.
You know? So,
Absolutely.
and be a better leader.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Agreed. So we have a few more minutes here. I want to ask
Mhm.
one question that I think will be really helpful for people.
Yeah.
So relationships are bound to happen in the workplace, right? Romantic relationships, they're bound to happen. Even I'm sure in times now that more people are working remotely, it's still going to happen. How can we as leaders effectively navigate those workplace relationships? What are some key strategies to help navigate that?
Kelly, that is a great question, and it's a real and honest challenge.
Yeah.
Some companies go so far as to say no fraternization rules. I will tell you, as a human being, I'm not a fan of them. If a client wants them, we put them in place. I'm not a fan of them.
Right.
You know, some things you need to be cautious of to reduce the drama, and in this particular instance, mitigate the risk for the company, because that's
Mhm.
really what's important when it comes to intimate relationships at work.
Right.
What they're doing outside of the work environment, in all honesty, is not any of your business.
Right.
As what I recommend as a best practice is, if and when you learn that there is a relationship, make sure the employees know there's a safe environment for them to come forward and disclose it and say, Karen, I just want you to know, Tom and I have started dating. My answer right away is going to be, great. Thank you so much for making me aware. My challenge is that Tom reports directly to you.
Right.
So we need to look at making a change there. And our clients are generally too small where there would be an opportunity to change a department. So it's a bigger problem with smaller businesses.
Right. Yeah.
But if you can, find another department area for that person to work with. The only time I'm truly concerned about intimate relationships at work is when there is that direct or even indirect supervisory relationship, because the very first two levels of a sexual harassment claim are the quid pro quo, the only Latin I ever learned, and I started as a music major, but this for that, and it has to do with that supervisory
Right.
dependent relationship.
Right.
So that is high risk. What I will do, regardless of the situation, is I will say, I appreciate you coming forward. I always try to appreciate when someone shares difficult information with me, because it's
Mhm.
not easy.
No.
They were very brave of them to come forward and say this to
Right.
the evil HR lady. I'm not evil.
No, you're
But HR is viewed that way.
yeah.
The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have a conversation with the couple. I am going to actually review the company's unlawful harassment and sexual harassment policy. I am going to have them sign that they are in a consensual relationship, and we reviewed the company's position on unlawful harassment. I am going to require them to notify me also if the relationship ends. And I usually go into it in such ways, honestly, this is great. I hope that this relationship continues. However, in the event it doesn't,
Right.
I need both of you to come and disclose to me.
Right.
Because then at that point, from an employer standpoint, that whole sexual harassment situation could raise its head again.
Right.
When they come to me and have that disclosure conversation that they have parted ways, if they've parted amicably, I'm going to again speak with both of them together. If not, I'm going to have a one-on-one conversation with them, reminding them about the first conversation that we had.
Right.
And reminding them again of the definition of unlawful sexual harassment. and reiterate to them that it's not acceptable.
Right.
One thing I did forget to mention is when I'm having the first conversation with them, I will be very sure to remind them that personal displays of affection at work, no.
Not okay.
No. Lunch break,
Right.
no, I don't care.
Yeah. It's not daytime.
I
Yeah.
don't want to see it.
Right.
Yeah. I don't want to see it. I don't want to hear about it. No. Your coworkers at work. That's all you are.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, it's a great point.
Yeah.
Those are really helpful strategies. So thank you for sharing that. That's really
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other challenge that comes with that, particularly if you have married couples at work, or if you have those that are domiciled together or they're partnered, the really difficult conversation that I have to have with a lot of managers is if I have to discipline or terminate one of them, well, should we give Tom a heads up? No, we most certainly should not. Tom is an employee.
Right.
We do not discuss employee matters amongst employees.
Oh my goodness.
Do not do that.
No, not appropriate. Yeah. Not appropriate.
In some circumstances, I will, particularly if it's a potentially volatile or emotional termination. I might, close to the end of the conversation with the individual employee, I'm bringing this all back together from a compassion standpoint.
Right.
Because I do want to make sure, even with the terminating employee, I want to make sure that they are safe to get home.
Right.
That they are okay.
Right.
It's bad news. It's horrible news. It's some of the worst news you can learn at work.
Of course.
I have a compassionate responsibility to make sure that they are okay. And if I have a loved one at work, it may absolutely be appropriate at that point.
Right.
But oh dear Lord, not in the planning and initial. I'm sorry. Yeah. I get that one a lot.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So
well, it's good they ask. Yeah, it's good they ask because
that's true. That's true. Thank you. I'll look at it that way. Thank you for asking. No.
That's a hard no.
Yeah.
So as we, it's hard to believe because this time has gone by. It's hard to believe we're almost at the hour. So I'd like to close the conversation by asking, what are your key don'ts and do's for more effective leadership and less drama? If there's anything either to recap or something new you'd like to share, but your key don'ts and do's.
Sure. One of the absolute do's is please have courageous conversations.
Yeah.
Please. Open and honest. Even in the most difficult of employment situations, if you want to take some action that might, from an employment regulation, look risky, I want you to have a courageous conversation. I want you to trust that employee to be a professional, to be an adult. I want you to have a conversation. I want you to have those courageous conversations that is going to reduce the drama as other staff members see you stepping up and having hard conversations.
Right.
In a safe environment. So that people know it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay. You know what? It's okay to get a customer complaint. None of us like it.
Right.
But it's okay. They happen.
Right.
Customers are wrong sometimes.
Right.
Customers are Karens. Really, I did. Yeah. Why did they pick that name? But anyway,
I don't know. But the M&M commercial where she says, "I'm sorry I called you Karen." She said, "Well, that's my name. I'm sorry your name is Karen."
Yeah. Oh, I know. I need M&Ms. One of my biggest don'ts: don't lie to your employees.
Yeah.
Do not. Yes. If you don't know an answer, don't make an answer up. Say, I don't know. I'll find out. Don't lie to cover their feelings. If they're being terminated, they're being terminated.
Right.
You're not going to make it any easier on them by saying, we're laying you off. Right. If it's not a fit, it's not a fit. Let them learn from it. Yes. If they've done something that's so egregious they need to be terminated, tell them so they don't do it again.
Exactly.
Yes, that's an awful, horrible conversation. I've had too many of them in my career. But don't lie. you're not doing anybody any favors. This is not a time to save someone's feelings.
Right.
And if you're disappointed in an employee, let them know that.
Right.
But don't beat them up about it.
Right.
Get it off your chest and move on.
Yes.
Let them fix it. Let them demonstrate they heard you and that they can fix it. So do have the courageous conversations. Don't lie. Do be open and honest. Do show compassion. Do show vulnerability. The more you can demonstrate vulnerability, I had someone say, but isn't that a sign of weakness? I'm like, no, it's a sign that I'm human. I mean, it's very important as a leader for my employees to see me as a human also. So do be vulnerable. There are times when you have to stand tall. With the start of COVID, I had to stand tall. I had to demonstrate to my employees I wasn't afraid. I wasn't concerned. We didn't have all the answers. So this is how we dealt with our clients. Now, I could be a mess of nerves at the end of the day when I'm not interacting with my employees.
Right.
So there are times when it's not appropriate to show vulnerability, to show strength.
Yes.
But there are also times when vulnerability is so important.
Right. Yeah. Agreed.
But and be true to yourself as well.
I
think that's important as a leader. Be okay. Talk to yourself as you would talk to a friend.
Yes. Yeah. That's great advice. Yeah.
And don't date your coworkers. Oh, and the last and we just had a conversation with employees about this. Don't touch. There's no touching at work. No touching. Handshakes okay when it's okay to shake hands again, but there's no touching.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 2021 and I still have to have no touching conversations.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Keep your hands to yourself.
I love my job. And I honestly do.
You can tell.
Touching.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I will make sure I include links to your website and to the book in the video description. Is there anywhere else? I like to, though, offer my guests the opportunity, where's the best place for people to find you?
The best place is the website. I am also on LinkedIn. I am also on Facebook. HR Resolutions is on Facebook. I will tell you most of my Facebook activity is around greyhounds, not business. So that's where I blow off some of my steam.
Right.
And if anyone is interested in a conversation about how to have a drama-free workplace, I have a website set up that will help them self-evaluate their circumstances. And that site is dramafreehr.com.
Excellent.
So provide some self-assessment.
Yeah, excellent. That's wonderful. That's a great resource. Thank you for sharing. Yeah.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Yeah, this was wonderful. So thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And thank you, everyone. And we'll see you at the next session. Have a great day.
Be well, everybody.